Hello and welcome to the Cinementalist podcast for Cinementalist.com. My name's Andy. Sitting next to me is Floki, our bearded dragon mascot, and sitting opposite me is Liam. How are you, my friend?
Doing good, dude. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm all right, thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, everything good in your world?
Yeah, I mean, Thursday's usually my day off, but I worked today, so it's feeling a little bit out of sorts, but I got through it.
Yeah, I was going to say, actually, because normally you've got the day off and then we go into recording in the evening. You've come straight from work, so this may end up being an ever so slightly shorter episode than normal, although we'll still go over an hour, obviously.
Oh, I'm still full guns blazing.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, I mean, otherwise I'd have probably spent the day sitting around in my pants and just, So
Well, there's nothing wrong with that.
I've done something, quote unquote, productive.
Other than a mental image for the audience,
Yeah, well, I mean, they don't know what I look like, so I hope they're envisioning me as a dashingly handsome man, but I'm a humble person, so
I don't know what to say to that. I have no idea.
I don't know why the words just keep spinning out of my mouth.
Yes, so this may be a little bit shorter than usual this week, just because we're a little bit pushed for time, but we'll still go over an hour for you, obviously. Let's crack on with the film news then. First thing I want to talk about this week, we just watched the trailer together.
Yes.
There's a new trailer out this week for a new Nicolas Cage film, which always makes us both very, very excited. Mm-hmm. And this is called Pig.
And it looks awesome.
It does look awesome, yeah. It's good timing, this, actually, because we very recently released a Nicolas Cage-a-thon on our premium podcast, where we basically, it was a long love letter to why we love Nicolas Cage so much and why he's such a fantastic actor and a lot of the mad, bad, and brilliant roles that he's played. This looks absolutely insane. It seems like they're essentially doing John Wick, except this time it's the death of a pig that causes the protagonist to go mad.
I thought it was the abduction of a pig.
Well, abduction potentially. Yeah, there was that line, wasn't there? Who has my pig?
Yeah.
It's so bizarre, this, because it definitely looks like a Saturday Night Live sketch or an Onion piece.
Well,
it actually looks really well shot at the same time.
Yeah, that's the thing. The cinematography looks great, and the conceit right off the bat. Nicolas Cage looking all bashed up, sporting a mane. He absolutely looks the part. It looks initially like it's going to be some sort of, like, what's that? Is it Kelly Reichardt, the director who did stuff like First Cow? It looks like it's going to be some sort of, in a good way, twee drama about a lone man.
I got a little bit of a sort of Southern Gothic vibe from it.
But as the trailer progresses, it's a trailer about it's this wild, mysterious truffle forager, and I
believe the conceit seems to be that Nicolas Cage used to be a chef.
Yeah.
And then now he's got a truffle pig, except somebody abducts said truffle pig.
Yeah.
And
he's living alone in the woods.
Yeah.
And it seems, and from the snippets we saw, it seems that he's a man who is also has a talent for violence. I mean, this looks absolutely batshit crazy.
As you said, this could well be Mandy, except with a pig.
Yes, this is the thing. And by that, it's like I'm just hoping that Nick Cage has just been stuck in another one of these absolutely deranged masterpieces, because that's what I consider Mandy to be. I'm hoping that Pig is just going to be another one of these completely off the beaten path, totally and utterly fucking sky high, who the fuck thought of that concept, that they just pull off. I'm really, really hoping that's the case.
As we said in our Nicolas Cage special, one of the interesting things about him is that he's a massively unpredictable actor, which is brilliant fun, because you never know what he's going to do next. And he can totally throw himself into roles where you have no idea what he's going to do, but he sells the character. He always really, really sells the character as hard as he can. Most of the time it works. Sometimes it's absolutely batshit crazy, but it's always entertaining.
Well, I think we mentioned on our special of him, didn't we? I think he refers to his acting style as nouveau shamanic. When I read that to him, I think so does he mean that the way in which he presents in film, is he sort of summoning a spirit from himself? Is that what that's meant to mean? I don't know. I mean,
there's that great quote as well where he's like, I don't just want to be an actor, man. I want to be John Denver on acid playing the accordion. I'm a heat-seeking panther and all this kind of shit. We love you, Nick. And yeah, but do check out the trailer to Pig because it made us laugh a few times, but it also looks genuinely good. And that's those two factors together often make for a great Nick Cage film. Very, very much looking forward.
Yeah,
to seeing this one.
I'm really excited for that one, man.
It sounds like we've been paid, doesn't it? But check out the trailer and you'll see what we mean. Yeah.
God, fucking hell, if only we were paid. Jesus Christ. That's not a passive-aggressive panhandle, by the way, honestly.
Second article this week, this is from the AV Club. It is entitled, "Of course, Jerry Seinfeld will star in and direct a movie about the origins of the Pop-Tart." So, of course, this is Jerry Seinfeld, the stand-up comedian. Have you seen this? Have you heard about this? Have you seen this? Have you heard about this? Yes, his long-awaited follow-up to B-Movie. The article reads, "You've waited long enough, Internet, and your patience has been rewarded. After about 15 years of memeing B-Movie, comedian Jerry Seinfeld is getting back in the movie business with Unfrosted, a movie about the creation of the Pop-Tart."
Okay.
Yeah. That seems to be everyone's reaction to this. As Jerry Seinfeld appears to think this is very, very funny. Apparently, this is based off a Pop-Tart joke, a famed Pop-Tart joke from his New York Times interview in 2012. And he also did a special a little while ago where he did a 5-minute long dissection of how much he loves Pop-Tarts. And so as a result, in order to really drive the joke home or perhaps even into the ground, he has decided to do a documentary about the making of said morning confectionery, I suppose.
Oh, my gosh. Do you know what's popping into my head right now? Like in these moments that you're describing this to me, I remember I watched a video not so long ago about somebody highlighting how like all of the best comedians of yesteryear that like so many people, an innumerable amount of people claim as influence, they never came up with anything as funny as the cold pockets meme. You know, out in America they have hot pockets, and somebody created an internet meme where it's cold pockets.
I am unaware of this.
And apparently that's just absurdly hilarious for some reason or another. And I'm just getting this, you know, this is the first time hearing about this, you telling me this, but it sounds about as funny as that.
I wonder if it's one of those things. I mean, it's not that I dislike Jerry Seinfeld. I think he was of his day. And I think Seinfeld as a show holds up quite nicely.
There are some good episodes of Seinfeld, definitely.
Yeah, it's one of the, OG sitcoms.
I'm more of a, I mean, I know that it's very meta-referential to Seinfeld and breaks the fourth wall in that capacity a lot, but I'm more of a Curb Your Enthusiasm fan.
Sure.
Larry David co-wrote the show, co-wrote Seinfeld, obviously, but
yeah,
I mean, it's got some cool moments. It's got some funny bits.
George Costanza all fucking day long, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
he's the best thing about it.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I guess this depends on how much you like Jerry Seinfeld. I mean, I didn't mind. Was it Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee? That YouTube series thing was reasonably entertaining.
Well, it's fucking better than James Corden's carpool karaoke.
Yeah, I got a feeling Jerry Seinfeld started doing it first in that regard.
Well, even if he stole the template from James Corden, he made a fucking better show out of it.
Yes, indeed. I would very, very much agree.
Because nobody likes James Corden.
Anyway, yeah, I'm going to end up, I can feel it now, I'm going to end up watching the Jerry Seinfeld documentary on Pop-Tarts, and who knows, it might be illuminating, funny, or otherwise. Hey,
well, just, shooting from the hip, organic thoughts doesn't sound the least bit interesting. But if you do end up watching it, yeah, I mean,
review incoming.
Colour me surprised, if I'm actually wrong. I always hope to be wrong, as we say.
The internet is banging on at the moment about Harrison Ford injuring himself on the Indiana Jones 5 set. They seem to be very...
Wow, that's really shocking.
They seem to be very, very surprised that a 78-year-old man doing his own stunts may, in fact, injure his shoulder slightly, and that it's going to set the production back a few months. I mean, this is literally, if you Google around for film news at the moment, this is all everybody is talking about. There's a lot of articles about Harrison Ford being in the UK and being quite grumpy with people asking him for autographs, which sort of, fits with that Harrison Ford in general. And also, there's still that whole COVID thing going around, and he is a 78-year-old man. So I'd say cut him a little bit of slack.
Well, he's always been a very stoic and laconic kind of guy. And plus,
he's known for being grumpy.
Yeah,
really,
and
really
plus
grumpy.
he is now, no disrespect to him whatsoever, just a statement of fact, he is now an old man.
He is, yeah.
So I agree, just leave him alone.
And he broke his leg filming Star Wars The Force Awakens as well, didn't he? Like a sliding door landed on him or something, which sounds like imagine how hard a sliding door has to land on you to break your leg, even for someone in their 70s.
Monumentally unpleasant, yeah.
But anyway, Disney has released a statement on the situation. They said, in the course of rehearsing for a fight scene, Harrison Ford sustained an injury involving his shoulder. Production will continue while the appropriate course of treatment is evaluated, and the filming schedule will be reconfigured as needed in the coming weeks. So there's no real story here, but everybody seems to be sort of up in arms about
When you
this.
said like everyone keeps talking about it, it's like anybody would think he fucking died or something.
Well, obviously, like yourself, I'm on film Twitter constantly, and this just keeps coming up again and again and again.
Well, I mean,
So I thought we'd cover it.
I mean, is he gonna be all right?
Apparently so, yeah.
Well, then
There was a
fuck off.
There was a real genuine concern about when he broke his leg, because obviously that's a huge injury to sustain, especially when you're of that age.
Yeah.
Yes, it sounds like he's tweaked his shoulder, and perhaps maybe at 78 years old might be an idea to use the stunt double a little bit more, should we say. But hey, ho.
Open and shut.
Yeah,
Stop
absolutely.
talking about it, everyone.
The production on Eli Roth's live-action film adaptation of Gearbox Software's popular video game series Borderlands has officially been completed after more than 3 months of filming in Hungary. In celebration of the filming wrap, the studio has also released a new behind-the-scenes photo offering us a first full look at Claptrap, who is set to be voiced by Jack Black. The Borderlands movie is expected to exist in a different universe than the game, which will allow the projects to stray away from the first game in the franchise. Now, this sounds exactly like what we were talking about last week with the Portal film.
Yeah.
In this, I don't know why they do it with video game adaptations, but they decide if you're going to adapt a video game, throw out any original narrative or story it has, and then substitute in your own. And what you end up doing is pissing off fans of the game because they don't get the story and the universe that they already know exists. And you end up pissing off people who actually just want to watch the film and have no idea about the game, because what you end up writing is inevitably completely disconnected from all the characters that they've put in the piece. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
It sounds exactly like that as far as I'm concerned. Although, I mean, Eli Roth has done some interesting work over the years.
What, like a Hostel?
Well, yeah, I suppose. But yeah, no, I didn't like Hostel. Did you like Hostel?
No, I thought it was terrible.
There's gore porn taken to its really, it wasn't even its uncomfortable extreme. It was entirely designed to disgust in a way that just sort of made you roll your eyes at it. I know there are quite a few big fans of it out there,
and
but
plus,
I just found it gratuitous for the sake of being
gratuitous. Yeah, it's lowest common denominator attempts to shock and revile people, which, as far as I'm concerned, just takes the littlest amount of imagination going. And plus, the acting in those films was not good. And it was just it was just bullshit. So, I mean, Eli Roth, because he's the bear Jew in Inglourious Basterds.
He is, and he does a
good job.
Yeah,
he does a good job. So there's one thing I can think of that I like Eli Roth doing. As far as his movies go, although actually, I'll tell you what, tell a lie, Cabin Fever was kind of fun. That's about it.
I'm just reading through the plot description they've read out here. Now, I didn't play the first Borderlands, but I played the fuck out of Borderlands 2.
Yeah, I remember playing it with you.
I played that pretty much non-stop for a year. Like, I really, really liked the gameplay of that game. But just reading through the plot description here, it actually doesn't sound a million miles away from the plot of the game. So this is, the Borderlands movie will follow a group of unlikely heroes called Vault Hunters, led by Lilith and Roland, who have been recruited for a retrieval mission. Lilith, an infamous outlaw with a mysterious past, reluctantly returns to her home planet of Pandora to find the missing daughter of the universe's most powerful son of a bitch, Atlas. Lilith forms an alliance with an unexpected team. Roland, a former elite mercenary, now desperate for redemption. Tiny Tina, a feral preteen demolitionist. Krieg, Tina's muscle-bound, rhetorically challenged protector. Tanis, the scientist with a tenuous grip on sanity. And Claptrap, a persistent wise-ass robot. Other than the daughter stuff, that does sound like everything I know from the game.
Did you say rhetorically challenged?
Yes, that's what we got. This is an article from Coming Soon.
What does that mean, rhetorically challenged?
In terms of her rhetoric, I suppose. Bad at dialogue.
Is that a polite way of saying bad at dialogue?
Tiny Tina doesn't say much, I remember from the game.
So, I mean, rhetorically challenged, is that a way of saying that the person has trouble speaking authoritatively? Or?
Yeah. Tiny Tina is a really big, badass, huge, actually, to the point of gratuitous obesity. And she's, if I remember correctly, very taciturn. So I think that's what they're getting at there. But in terms of character setup, that does exactly sound like Borderlands 2. But the whole going back to find a daughter thing, this just smacks of bad video game adaptation. I'm sorry, it really, really does. But hey-ho, it's wrapped on production. It will be coming out soon, and one of us is going to watch it. So yeah, in fact, I might
probably you.
Well, I might take that one simply because I do know the universe and I'd like to compare.
Well, you are very much a video game aficionado, so I think it would be.
Thank you for not saying nerd.
No, aficionado. Like, and so I think it would be more appropriate, really. So, yeah.
Well, there you go.
Let
Yes.
me know what you think of that one.
Shall be coming soon. And Jack Black is voicing Claptrap. I like Jack Black quite a lot. That still sounds like a bad idea.
I like some Jack Black, some of his things.
And there's a trailer out for Vikings and American Horror Story stars' new movies. This is Travis Fimmel and Alexandra Daddario. And they're coming together for a film called Die in a Gunfight.
I know Alex Daddario. She was in this fucking terrible horror movie I watched not so long ago, but she wasn't too bad in it.
Oh, she was good at the very least.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen her in much, but I do love me a bit of Travis Fimmel. I genuinely think his performance in Vikings is one of the greatest just acting performances in the past 10 years, I would say. I think it was absolutely amazing, and he really gave that show so much heft and weight, and it was able to move forward past his character and expand. I think because of how much he put into that performance, he sort of legitimized the show and stopped it being silly. But anyway, Die in a Gunfight is, as best as I can tell, Romeo and Juliet. This is by Studio Lionsgate, and they're describing it as a visually stunning movie with an exciting mix of action, humor, and heart, which tells you absolutely nothing. But hotel actress Daddario as Mary, opposite Terminator, Dark Fate, and Scream Queens actor Diego Boneta as Ben. The pair are star-crossed black sheep of two powerful families, the Gibbons and the Rathcarts, who are embroiled in a centuries-long blood feud. When Mary and Ben reignite their instant scandal affair after years apart, their forbidden love sparks a dangerous collision as fists and bullets fly between the two warring families. It's Romeo and Juliet, as best as I can tell it.
Sounds exactly like it, yeah.
Which is fine, you know.
But Die in a Gunfight, I mean, the immediate imagery that conjures for me is Western.
Yes.
I mean, is it set in the Wild
No,
West?
very much. I watched the trailer earlier. This very much looks modern day. But Baz Luhrmann did a damn good job of Romeo and Juliet, and I think there's some comparing and contrasting to be done there as well. I know that's actually kind of a controversial opinion because a lot of people hate that film, but I really liked the Baz Luhrmann Romeo and Juliet adaptation. I thought it was really brave to do the original Shakespearean dialogue and just do it as if it didn't matter, to do it in a modern context.
Do you know what? I don't think I've seen that film since I was
It's fun. It's fun.
probably 12 or 13, so I have no real recollection of it. I'd have to watch it again.
Well, this is going to make inevitable comparisons. I think it's pretty much inviting those. So, yeah, I think there's been interesting ones to look out for. I mean, Travis Fimmel, he was great in Raised by Wolves as well. Really, really rate him as an actor.
That's the Ridley Scott produced sci-fi series,
Yes, which I thought
yeah.
was really excellent. Fell in love with it. Again, some people didn't like it. Some people loved it. I happen to fall on the loving side. But yeah, anything Travis Fimmel does, I am interested in. And so go and check out the trailer. I mean, it looks a bit generic, but then I think it's the trailer being cut generically. But the fact that it's doing the Romeo and Juliet story in the modern day, who knows if that's going to work, but we shall see.
You can be generic and still be good. It just depends how you cut it. You know,
If the acting's good enough and the action sequences are punchy, it could be a fun ride.
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
We've got some good vibes coming off it anyway. Okie dokie then. Well, that's the end of the news this week. Liam, as usual, has a couple of reviews for you. He did give me a little preview before we started that this week is going to be more positive than last week. Have you found some better films?
Yes, I certainly have. Yeah, we had a couple of stinkers last week, didn't we? And I was just
Law of averages. There's got to be a good one here somewhere, right?
yeah. That was a very, very bad one. The other, but you know,
Yeah, to be honest.
What are you going to
do? Those Cinementalist podcast guys, all they do is moan and complain.
Stop fucking whinging and moaning. Be positive about be pathological optimist, you pair of cunts.
Well, here is your chance, Liam. Be positive about some films.
Well, okay, so first up, I've been interested in this one for quite a while after seeing its title flash up a few months ago around film Twitter and stuff. This is a new British horror movie called Censor. Ever heard of this, Censor?
Yes, I think I saw the trailer a little while ago.
Directed by Prano Bailey Bond. I love that name, Prano Bailey Bond.
Prano Bailey Bond.
Yeah, or maybe it's Prano. I don't know if it's Prano or
Prano, yep.
This stars Niamh Algar as Enid Baines, and Enid is part of essentially the BBFC, like the British Board of Film Classifications, during the early 80s during the video nasty era. Remember, like all that stuff. I mean, obviously, we wouldn't have actually been alive when that was at its height.
No, I actually wrote a paper for this in college about the Mary Whitehouse and all the film censorship at the time.
Because I think, wasn't it at its sort of, it was at its apex in what, like 82, 83?
Roundabout, if I remember correctly. It's been a while, yeah.
Yeah, I think like around the sort of early to mid 80s when it was really fermenting a severe moral panic, and there were people who were threatening film censors, and as you say, Mary Whitehouse was stoking the fires of puritanical rage, and it was just a very frightening time for a lot of people in the UK. Well, Enid, she says several times to several characters that she doesn't enjoy. People ask her, have you seen anything good? And she's like, I don't consider it entertainment. I do this to protect people. So I think Enid is someone who, to a certain degree, has an empathy for the notion that these films can act as something of a psycho-spiritual pollutant to people who watch them. And she wants to, but she knows that people are inevitably going to get their hands on them because it's the forbidden fruit. And she wants to do her bit to veto things and make sure, do her little kernel of helping society not go down the fucking drain. Well, one day she's given a screening of a film called Don't Go in the Church, which is the latest venture by a very mysterious and shadowy and well-regarded video nasty director by the name of Frederick North. And his name is repeated quite a lot throughout the film without him actually appearing for the overwhelming majority of it. And Enid sits down with her colleague and they stick on Don't Go in the Church. And as it starts rolling, Enid becomes overcome with this abject peril and horrifying sadness because the film depicts two young girls, siblings, lost in the woods whilst they are being spied upon by this horrible, monstrous character who goes by the name of Beastman, who seems to be ubiquitous in a lot of the horror films presented here. And these events with these two children on screen seems to be frighteningly similar, almost a carbon copy of an incident in Enid's childhood where her and her sister were out in the woods and her sister went missing. And she's been missing for, I think, well over 20 years. Nobody's seen her since. They've tried everything. And but Enid has never given up hope that she may one day find her sister again. I mean, her parents actually have gotten a death certificate, which upsets her very much. They're like, you need to stop wasting your life and letting this torture you. It's horrible, but you need to do what you can to move past it. Otherwise, you're going to look back and realise that all you've done is squander your existence searching for someone who, I hate to say it, probably is not alive anymore. You really need to move past it. You need therapy, etc., etc. But Enid sees this and, she's immediately freaked out, but it plants a seed in her head and she begins to forage around and look through the films of the back catalogue of Frederick North a bit more, and she becomes acquainted with a very sleazy and creepy film producer played by, good old Michael Smiley, the Northern Irish ginger guy, was in Kill List and Spaced and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I love that guy. I'm always glad when he shows up and stuff. He's just got something about him.
Did he play the bike courier?
Yeah. He plays.
I can't remember his character name.
Oh, yeah,
Stripes or something like that.
Yeah, he just whenever he hears a phone ring, he imagines he's in a fucking rave again. So,
Yeah.
But Tires. That's it. Yeah.
I did an anagram.
Yeah.
Tires and stripes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tires.
There's something in my brain kicking at the very least.
But Michael's always very glad when Michael Smiley shows up. But so essentially Enid, she begins an obsessive quest to track down her sister, becoming increasingly more convinced that the young woman who stars in a lot of Frederick North's films, Alice Lee, is actually her long-lost sister. And she hears several people talk about how, his upcoming film is going to be Alice Lee's final picture. And so Enid descends into a panic, thinking, like, why? Well, what's going to happen to her? What are they going to do to her? And she's she's completely and utterly convinced that this is her long-lost kid sister and that she has to do everything she can to get her back, whilst increasingly losing her grip on reality. So you pretty much following that?
Yep, makes sense.
So, this is a sort of psychological horror / thriller, very much in the vein of, it reminded me of several of the works of people like Ben Wheatley. It's one of those rather economical indie films that is driven by, a reasonably mysterious elliptical narrative, very, very good cinematography by Annika Summerson. This is a really, really spooky looking film. They do the sort of like the back offices of Enid's workplace her and her colleagues in these sort of atavistic, smoky screening rooms, and the colour palette, there's something ever so slightly off about everything, and it's got this really crisp hue of threatening colours, and it's a very, very good-looking film. And Niamh Algar, first thing I actually saw Niamh Algar in was That Calm with Horses, which happened to be the final film that I checked out at the Odeon before the initial lockdown in the country. And that's the first, I don't believe that's my first recollection of being acquainted with her work. And I really, really liked her in that. And this is just another sort of addition to repertoire. I think she delivers a really, really solid performance in this, and I really buy her as Eden. And her arc in the film is definitely a very tragic one. It's a very frightening film, but it also raises really interesting questions. Like, it raises questions about the treatment of women in the workplace, because as this takes place during the early 1980s, there still would have been a very rampant and unchecked culture of men just infantilizing women, speaking to women however they want to. And she has to combat, lascivious and ambiguous intentions of people, and particularly Michael Smiley's rather oily and odious character. It also raises questions about just to what extent things like video nasties do have an effect on people psychologically, because one of the subplots in the film is that Enid and her co-worker, they pass a movie for certification. It's actually Deranged, which is a 1974 film based on the crimes of Ed Gein. And within the film, it transpires that a guy murders his family and can't recollect a single detail of it, and they begin referring to him as the amnesiac killer. And somehow it was leaked to the public that Enid and her specific male co-worker, the public know that it was them who passed this film. So people start telephoning her house and directing abuse at her and blaming her for being a corrupting influence. And so it raises questions, as to what extent this stuff does act like a psychological pollutant. I mean, I happen to personally be of the camp that there's no actual causation between violent media and actual violence. I don't think there's any proof to support that. There never has been. No, but it's really interesting the way this movie ties that in.
So it seems like it's taking a somewhat nuanced stand on it.
Yeah, I'd say it is to a degree. I mean, it's the thing is, I did find it to be a very powerful and interesting film, particularly the way that it climaxes. I thought was very, very memorable indeed. It does drag a little bit around the middle. Like, I would have liked it if they had sort of found a way to accelerate the pace, or maybe, not make it feel padded, because there's a lot of Enid's journey that does feel that it feels that it does sort of perambulate in front of you a little bit slowly, but that's really my only criticism. Other than that, it's a very sad, believably sad and spooky feature, and it does provoke thoughts. And even though as I've said, I completely disagree with the notion that violence in film is actually a causal factor in reality. I just don't believe that at all. But because Enid is a video censor and she has had to contend with this appalling incident in her childhood that has really traumatized her.
Yeah, it makes it understandable.
Yeah, it makes it, and and you think about how much, how much is her work compounding that terrible sadness and all of the other psychological maladies that were already there. So it's not, an absolute right at the fucking park, grade A piece of brilliance, but it's definitely worth a watch because of Niamh Algar's performance, and it's atmospherically very good. And I think the way it pays off is actually very smart and thoughtful and will stay with you. So Censor's worth a look.
Yeah, that sounds really intriguing. I think I'll give that one a go.
Yeah, it's worth a look, man. Definitely worth a look. And then next up, we have Siberia, one of the latest films from, because I think he's actually produced a few recent ones in succession, but this is, as far as I'm aware, this is the latest film from Abel Ferrara. And Ferrara's a director I've always loved very much. I'm a big fan of stuff like Bad Lieutenant, King.
He's getting on a bit now, isn't he?
I think he's
cool that he's still making stuff.
Yeah, well, Abel Ferrara. Well, I think he's in his early 70s. I think he's like 71, 72, something like that. But Yeah, I love Bad Lieutenant King of New York, Miss 45. I mean, Driller Killer is a pile of shit, but it's fun to watch. Dangerous Game with Harvey Keitel and Madonna. It's like Abel Ferrara has done lots of stuff that I I gravitate towards him. There's a lot of people who think that he's just a fucking lunatic who makes very weird exploitative films just to piss people off. But whoever said that was a crime. But this film is very, very interesting. This stars Willem Dafoe as a man named Clint. And Clint is an American gentleman, and he runs a bar that is smack bang in the middle of the Siberian wilderness. There's just lots and lots of mountainous snow that goes on forever around his establishment. And as the film opens, Clint is sat in the bar. It's empty, and he's reading a book, and suddenly a local indigenous Siberian fisherman comes in. And one of the things that I've found quite intriguing about this film was that there's a lot of indigenous Siberian and Russian individuals who frequent the bar, and they speak in their own language, and it doesn't subtitle it, but Clint always seems to understand what they're saying.
So it's a deliberate no subtitle.
Yeah, because I couldn't locate any subtitles.
That always freaks me out a little bit. I'm like, do I have my settings wrong on the player or something?
That's
like
what
that?
I was a little bit.
Am I supposed to know what they're saying?
What the fuck is going on? But actually, I really like the way they've approached it, because this native Siberian fishmonger comes in and he's just talking at length to Clint in his own language, and Clint is just remaining very silent. And then he eventually picks a bottle off the shelf and just goes, "Rum it is then," and just pours the guy a glass. So it seems that he just has this sort of almost preternatural ability to understand whatever anyone is saying to him. So Clint interacts with a lot of these people who sort of sporadically come in and out of his drinking establishment. And one day he just has this completely inescapable urge to get on a sled pulled by a trusty team of huskies and just go off on a journey. And it's a journey that not only literally traverses the surrounding terrain, but it's also a deep, dark delve into Clint's personal history. Because as we learn, this is a guy he's never really been very sure of himself in the world. He struggled to connect with his father. He has a wife and son far away somewhere who he is estranged from. He never got on very well with his brother. And he's just fundamentally, he's a man who has been in existential crisis for years. And so he just takes off on a dog sled. And the rest of the film is sort of an illumination of the recesses of his mind in what is essentially one long dream sequence. And basically, this film has gotten quite a critical rubbishing. People calling it incoherent, people saying that it's an arty-farty, smarty piece that is nowhere near as clever as it thinks it is, and that it was a waste of time, and that didn't see what the point was whatsoever, etc., etc. This is one of those instances where I couldn't disagree more vehemently. I actually loved Siberia. Right off the bat, the cinematography by Stefano Fellivine. I know the film is entitled Siberia, but as far as I could find out, it was shot in Italy, Germany, and Mexico. And the way that this DP shoots those landscapes, you talk about a visual feast. This is absolutely intoxicating imagery and use of locales. And the way that Willem Dafoe plays Clint, yes, his character is deeply elliptical. And yes, he is something of, there is something tabula rasa about him. And I think that is because far from being, yes, critics who have said that the casual moviegoer will struggle with this to the extreme, they are correct. But not that there's anything wrong with that. You like what you like. But I do believe that this film is actually an invitation to something of a very existential and humanistic reverie. It deals with like the language of dreams, and it illuminates Clint's deepest fears and his regrets and how he wished he had dealt with things. How I've said before about how I really like when a film can pull it off. it's a very, very different motion picture indeed. With something like Mulholland Drive, even though that is batshit crazy because it's dealing with the experience of dreams, how one can feel upon, that sensation, the mental emotional sensations that you have upon waking from a particularly vivid and striking dream, striking in terms of how germane it is to the things that you consider to be your personhood.
You suddenly start seeing the subtext. What does that mean?
Yeah,
what is my subconscious playing with?
And I'd say, no, I mean it, man. I loved this movie. I think it's very, very bizarre, but it also has one thing it doesn't have. It doesn't have sort of frustratingly pseudo-intellectual dialogue. When I heard about the complaints about this film, I thought, is the dialogue going to be all of this absolute impenetrable narcissistic rubbish such as Guy Ritchie's dialogue for Revolver, where he thinks he's saying something very clever.
The colour blue and the colour green, and you put all your chips on the table and you lose the ones underneath.
The head inside the foot, and the last place you would look for your enemy, and all that fucking
I hate it when we quote Kermode, but it has to be done sometimes, doesn't it?
Got to give credit to Kermode, but what can we say? He puts things.
He nailed it. Yeah,
he nails it. He puts things so wonderfully.
Quite possibly the funniest film review ever done. Yeah.
But no, this film, Siberia, actually has a lot of great dialogue that I think really gets to the heart of widely corroborated fears amongst people, fears about never finding ultimate redemption for their mistakes, fears of never being able to fully realize who they are or to own up to who they are, even if they don't realize it. And just... it's got this wonderful barrage of imagery that is sad and mysterious and nightmarish, but also very, very sensual. Just to say, Abel Ferrara is known for his very frank depictions of human sexual behaviour, and he doesn't shy away from it here.
All I can think of is Harvey Keitel wanking by a window. But yes,
yeah, well, you see Willem.
It's one of those images you never unsee.
You see Willem Dafoe having a lot of sexy time in this film with various women, actually. So,
if that's your thing,
that's cool. but he's also it's Clint in conversations with his brother and his father, not in consensus reality, but in this sort of phantasmagorical space that he is journeying through. And it's the soundtrack. There's a great moment in it where Clint is told to, he's like, you're a human, you're not a saint, so enjoy, fuck up, be sad, dance when you feel like it. It's like, you're not a fucking, if you're going to attain perfection, you might as well kill yourself right now because you're never going to. And he's like, fucking put on one of your favourite records. And there's a bit where Willem Dafoe does like this quite awesome dance sequence. You remember, Run Away by Del Shannon?
Yeah.
Wow, wow, wow. And he does that. And then in the next scene, he's going along with his Siberian husky sled, and he spots what looks like a run-down old house. And so we go from Del Shannon to there's this band called Bloodspot. This soundtrack suddenly goes into extreme heavy metal, like raw. And it's got this absolute mad, eclectic, completely singular OST going for it. I really loved Siberia, man, in the way that we love Valhalla Rising, because it's a film that you can find things to relate to. You can find things to relate to on a very existential, metaphysical level. And I think that Siberia does that phenomenally. And it's a beautiful looking film. The soundtrack is great. It's open to interpretation in a way that it does not smack of pseudo-intellectualism or attention seeking. I actually found it very human and poignant and freaky. And I just, I couldn't disagree with the overwhelming majority of critics more. I thought Siberia was great. Willem Dafoe is another powerhouse performance. I'm a big fan of that guy, but he really, really makes this work. If you're in a space where, if you're in something of a contemplative headspace and you just want to drink in, a marriage of incredible imagery with very, very metaphysical themes, and also just maybe look at pieces of yourself I think this film is an excellent example of that, and I'm very, very glad I've seen it.
Oh, as soon as you made a comparison to Valhalla Rising, my ears
Yeah,
picked up.
maybe not in terms of.
'Cause I think that's a stunning, existential piece of work.
Absolutely, in terms of fantastic imagery and in terms of narrative ellipsis, like that's why I drew comparisons to Valhalla Rising, because we watched that together and we both have
we spent like 3 hours afterwards talking about
both
it.
related like what it could possibly mean and how it stimulated us cerebrally, but also how it made us really feel how what we saw of our own dilemmas and our own expeditions in it. And I think
it's the magic of great cinema, isn't it?
Absolutely. Well, do you know what? One of the positive reviews about this says, I think it's, what did it say? Ferrara and Defoe are making films in an era that just wants to watch television. And
you're intriguing. Very intriguing.
If you look this up, you will see very, very poor RT scores, and people are giving it 1-star ratings all over the place. I am completely diametric to that. I loved this film. I thought it was a very, very powerful work. And I think if you're a fan of cinema, you owe it to yourself to see it. I thought it was great.
I was just looking at the critical response section on the Wikipedia article, and Guy Lodge from Variety agrees with you. He called it a beautiful, unhinged, sometimes hilarious trek into geographical and psychological wilderness that will delight some and mystify others.
And he's absolutely right. Yeah, he's absolutely. Guy Lodge just summarised it brilliantly. I totally.
I must check this out. This sounds brilliant.
I thought it was. Yeah, I thought it was. But yeah, it is batshit crazy. It offers no easy answers. It is more of it's an experience. It's not an entertainment. It's an experience. So know that going in. But I found a lot in Siberia to value, and if you watch it, I hope you do too.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Okay then, so TV of the week. Only one thing to talk about. This is a new Netflix original series set in Iceland. It is in fact Netflix's first original series set in the country. And it is called Katla.
Katla?
Yes, Katla is a famous volcano in Iceland, of which it has many. There's the unpronounceable one that erupted a few years ago and caused all the air traffic in Europe to stop for quite some time because of the ash cloud. But yes, there is the Katla volcano. And the way Katla's written as well, it's all in capitals and it's in quite a sci-fi font, which sort of tells you somewhere of where we're going. I'm going to do the plot setup on this, of course, but this is one of those ones, introduces a lot of characters, played by a lot of actors with Icelandic names as well. So as usual, please forgive me for the pronunciation. I am going to do my damnedest. But I'm going to give you some primary plot through lines because this is definitely a chase down the mystery thing. So obviously there's more here than I'm saying. And I'm going to truncate some things in the plot as well, just to make it make a bit more sense and give you a proper through line to see if it intrigues you as to whether you'd like to watch it. So are we ready for this one?
Indeed.
Okay, so this is set a year after an eruption from the Katla volcano. And it opens with a shot of lava running through a glacier at the base. And as this lava is running through this ash-covered landscape, we come down to find a woman covered completely in ash. She's nude, but she's covered in this sort of black sludge. And she opens her eyes, and all you can really see, because she's so blacked out by all of the muck covering her, is the whites of her eyes. And she gets up and she begins walking into the distance. We then cut to meet Grima, played by, and here's the hardest bit of pronunciation here, I do apologize. I think it's Guðrún Eþjóra, if I'm getting that even slightly correctly. She is in fact an Icelandic singer, a very, very successful Icelandic singer. And she's been in a few productions of stuff, but I think this is her big TV debut. She's Grima, and she's living with her boyfriend in the small town of Vik at the base of this volcano. This volcano, the major eruption is over, but it's still spewing out ash. And the town of Vik is completely and utterly covered in black dust. So everything is quite a hellish landscape, even by Icelandic standards. She's living with her boyfriend, who is the town's one and only cattle farmer. And most of the town has been evacuated for a year now. It's only a few residents left and scientists that come in on a regular basis in order to take readings from the volcano. And what they're looking out for primarily is to make sure that it doesn't do a pyroclastic flow, aka Pompeii. Yeah. So that's their reason for being there. But anyway, her father, Thor, or in the Icelandic, Thor, for better pronunciation, played by Ingvar Sigurðsson, also lives in the town still. And they meet up on a regular basis. He is a mechanic fixing trucks that come in, tractors, and the few equipment that's been left behind in this town. And he's living a bit of a nomadic life because Grima's sister disappeared some time ago, and her mother is revealed to be dead as well. So it's just Grima and her father Tor left. He's a bit of a nomadic personality. He lives in a garage in the town, fixing up people's trucks. He keeps a lot of animals around him. He's got cats and kittens and a crow that hangs around outside when he's fixing stuff. This crow is very distinctive because it's got one white feather on one wing. So they're making the small town life, trying to make the best of it. The scientists up at a research station near the bottom of the glacier are having a break one day when they look out into the distance and they spot something. They pull their binoculars to their eyes and they see this ash-covered woman walking eerily towards them from the dust. And they go, holy hell, who is that? Is that a tourist? Occasionally they get people sneaking into the area to come and take a look at the volcano, even though everything's been shut off. So they immediately go running out to her. They put the tinfoil blankets around her. Like I said, she's completely and utterly caked in this ash and dust, and she can hardly speak, and they identify that she must be in shock. So they take her to the nearby hospital, and she's looked after by one of the nurses there. And they begin trying to scrape this ash off of her, but it's formed this really weird sludge, and they're not quite sure what it is. Again, you can only see the whites of her eyes at this point. They're trying to talk to her. They're trying to get some information from her. And she says that her name is Gunhild, and that she knows Tor, Grima's father, in the town. That's the only person she can identify. So Tor is brought up to see if he knows this woman. He looks into the room that she's in and is immediately shocked, stunned, and tears begin to form in his eyes. And he immediately walks away again and leaves. Gunhild starts to make a recovery, and she says that she's from Sweden and that she works at the local hotel, the Hotel Vic. And everybody finds this really suspicious because the hotel has been shut down for some time. It's only occasionally used by some scientists. So the chief of police goes to the hotel and begins asking the lady who runs it whether she knows a Gunhild. And she says, no, there's no one's worked here other than me for some time, although there was a Gunhild that worked here a good 15, 20 years ago. And she starts searching through photographs she's got of that era, and she finds a photograph that looks exactly like the woman who was covered in ash. Meanwhile, Tor has gone back to working on the tractors and everything he needs to do for the town when he notices that his beloved crow with the white feather on its wing has died. So he's quite cut up about it. He digs a hole in the ash nearby and buries the crow and has sort of a solemn moment because it was one of his little animal companions that were living there. Meanwhile, the chief of police has got hold of a Gunhild living in Sweden. There's supposed to be the same woman that worked there 15 or 20 years ago. He calls this woman up and gets hold of her son. And her son says, no, Gunhild is my mother, but she's here with me. And he manages to eventually get hold of this woman and puts her on the phone with the supposed Gunhild that is lying in the hospital bed. And they sound exactly like each other. Meanwhile, Tor, still cut up and shaken up from whatever he saw when he walked into the hospital room, walks out to his tractors and sees that the crow with one white feather on its wing is sitting alive and well on top of a gatepost. And he goes, how can this be? He digs up the ash where he buried the crow and finds that its body is still there. This crow has mysteriously reappeared. And the Gunhild living in Sweden, that used to work at the hotel 15 or 20 years ago, decides that she's going to go from Sweden to Iceland to find out what the hell's going on and who this strange woman who's pretending to be her may or may not be. Does that all make rough sense?
Yeah, just about.
Yeah, so there's a few things I'm missing out there. For a start, there's Dari, played by Bjorn Thors. Now, observant fans of the podcast will remember when I did the Valhalla Chronicles not too long ago, which is another Icelandic production. Bjorn Thors featured prominently in that as well as a Norwegian detective. He was Icelandic, but he moved to Norway and then back again. So I rated him really, really highly in my review of the Valhalla Chronicles, and he's very, very good in this as well. But I am leaving a fair bit out because this is definitely a chase the mystery thing. Now, Netflix has this down as ominous and chilling and slow burn. And I would definitely agree with all three of those user tags. It's really, really creepy, this. Some reviews have described it as scary. I think scary is a bit too broad and it's a bit too generic. Creepy is far more accurate. I will give a little bit away in that Gunhild is not the only person to appear ash-covered from the base of the volcano. And these people covered in the ash with just the whites of their eyes that often appear in the background of shots in a very recognizably horror movie fashion are really kind of terrifying. It's that chill down the back of your spine, blood run cold kind of thing that it's playing with. I got huge Ingmar Bergman vibes from this.
Ingmar Bergman?
Yeah, definitely. It's that Icelandic landscape is used really effectively as well, because you've got this ash cloud over the top. You've got the rolling of the sea on black beaches, the stark volcanic rock scenery, all this kind of, that sort of really moody. You could easily see Death sitting on the beach playing chess. You know what I mean? It's got that Seventh Seal unnerving vibe to it as you try and figure out what the hell is going on here. It's the first thing I can say in quite a long time that's actually really made my blood run cold. The temptation to call something scary, I think, is obvious, but scary isn't descriptive enough. When you say something's scary, you often mean that it makes you jump, that it puts you on edge, that it makes you... This is way more insidious than that. This is something, there's very obviously much deeper meaning bubbling just under the surface, and you as an audience member are encouraged to delve into the mystery and figure out what's going on. And because it's so obtuse at points, that unnerving factor is really, really ever present and overwhelming at points. It's very, very slow burn. It's got a little problem with its pacing, I think, in that most of what happens in terms of plot-defining events tends to happen at the start of an episode and at the very end. And in between, what you get is a lot of character development and a lot of ominous portents of doom and foreshadowing and that kind of stuff. I thought it worked quite effectively, but it maybe could do with something mid-episode to just G people up a little bit. It's very wordy. It's very character-focused. It is, of course, in Icelandic, so you've got the subtitles thing going on as well, although quite a few large sections of it are in English, particularly when the older Gunhild makes it to the town. Because she's Swedish, she speaks English to the locals because her Icelandic isn't very good. So you do get big sections in English as well. And we all know, Icelandic people and Nordic people speak better English than the English do. So there's no huge lump there. There's also a sort of strange discrepancy in that a lot of people in the town don't seem to realize what's going on is absolutely batshit. There's only a couple of people that really freak out about it. Now, I don't know whether that's a representation of the Icelandic attitude of going, oh, well, we'll carry on as usual, or whether that's maybe a little bit dodgy writing in terms of realism. I didn't mind it personally. What I liked is that it kept up the intrigue, it kept up the mystery. There's a nice twist in there coming as well that I obviously won't go into. Ends on a bit of a cliffhanger that I'm not sure whether it's just an open-ended ending or whether it's going to go into a second season and blow things up even bigger. But I can't think of the last time I watched a bit of TV that really had me wanting to look away from the screen at points. And actually, if you're a bit of a scaredy cat, there isn't a lot in here that's really going to freak you out. It's just it keeps up that level of uncomfortableness at points to a degree that really, really intrigues you. My girlfriend doesn't like scary stuff at all. We've got about halfway through it. And I was about to put it on one evening and she was like, oh God, we're going to watch the thing with the ash people. And I said, well, if you're not into it or whatever, then that's fine. I can watch the rest of it by myself for the review. She's like, no. I need to know what happens. And I think that says just about everything you need to know about Katla. It's slow, it's ominous, it's creepy, but it draws you in. It really does pull you in, so you need to figure out what's happening here. I think it'll pull in even people that don't like that chilling, ominous atmosphere, because there are so many little bits of foreshadowing and clever little threads running in the background. You want to put it together almost like a murder mystery, and it's got some really, really good payoffs in it as well. I think it's a really accomplished piece of work. I think it's very original. It's written primarily by Baltasar Kormakur and his writing partner Sigurjón Jartansson. I'm going to say there's a K in front of that. I don't know whether it's pronounced the K or not. It's one of these ones, right? But I think it's very well written. I think it's very well put together. I think it's artistic, and I think it's creepy in just the right sort of way. I can imagine you getting a real
How do you
kick out
spell
of
the
this.
title?
Katla, Katla.
KTLA.
And it's being promoted very heavily on Netflix at the moment. It won't take
It
a lot of
sounds very
finding.
fascinating. Yeah, because what you were saying earlier about the term scary having too broad connotations, I know that you mean by that. Because
It's like saying it's action-packed. I mean,
yeah.
what kind
Because,
of...
for example, right off the top of my head, when I think of a film, like if you were to ask me, what's a film that I would say I think is scary, Funnily enough, one title that immediately comes to mind that probably wouldn't for a lot of people. I think that Cape Fear is a scary film.
Yeah, you wouldn't be too far off, but
You know what I mean? Like, it's not jump scares are not like
throw in an ever-present supernatural hum running underneath that you have to figure out along with the characters.
Yeah,
and you're somewhere there, but it's got some really iconic. Like I said, Bergman would be the obvious choice for this. It's unsettling in the way a lot of his films were.
Yeah.
And I really like. I like the way it uses the landscape to its effect. Like I said, there's a lot of character development, and some people might find that slow going. But I would say keep going with it because it will draw you in. It certainly drew me in.
Well, that's good because I like things that are scary, but I am very much in the camp of people who I am scared by things that are off and unsettling.
Yes, exactly, unsettling.
Jump scares are just this is annoying.
Yeah, there are a couple of little jump scares in it. There's one in particular, but I would say even if you're averse to that sort of thing, I'd go with it anyway. But it's might make you look behind you a few times. You know what I mean? And I really like it when a piece keeps at that level.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. I've got to give it to you for the setup because you have really got my attention.
I hope so. It's an intriguing show, and there's so much I had to leave out as well. It's quite a difficult one to review this because there's a lot more I want to talk about, but it definitely wants the audience to go down the thread with it, and I don't want to deny anybody that pleasure. And it is a pleasure. But
just in general descriptive accuracy, so it's accurate to say that this is a horror series. Or is there some there or maybe there's things about it that actually subvert that substantively?
I guess it's a supernatural horror, but I would say it's more of a Icelandic character drama with the supernatural horror running pervasively through it.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, it's a really cool piece of work. Liked it a lot.
Awesome. I'll be checking
it
out.
Really enjoyed it. Okie dokie then. Well, that brings us on to trivia, and I thought I'd do some trivia on Iceland.
Iceland. You know what? I don't really know a terrible amount about Iceland.
It's a really interesting country, and you're absolutely right. I think a lot of people don't know a lot about Iceland. It has a really small population, and I just think it's one of those. I think the wildness and the unknowable thing about it is the thing that is compelling. But I've got some really cool trivia here to finish off with to inform, educate, and hopefully entertain.
Excellent.
Let's start off with this. Iceland was settled by Vikings from Norway sometime in the 800s. This fact makes Iceland a fairly young country when it comes to settlement, and also contributes to its distinct cultural background. The Icelandic horses in the country today are unique in the fact that they are direct descendants from the horses the Vikings first brought over from mainland Europe.
Oh, wow, that's pretty cool.
They've got these very distinctive, they're shown quite a lot in Katla, actually. They've really thick manes and very...
What's the breed name?
I don't know off the top of my head. It's something unpronounceable.
Reykjavik Gurdensson horse. Yeah. Sorry, no offence intended.
Because it's located on the mid-Atlantic ridge, Iceland is an incredibly active country geologically. There are more than 125 volcanic mountains in the country, a handful of which are still very active, and another handful that could easily awaken and become active as the country changes and grows. Iceland experiences a volcanic eruption roughly once every 4 years, though the past few years have seen one eruption or more each year. Because of this constant activity, a good portion of Iceland is covered in lava fields.
Oh, well.
Yes.
Pretty nuts.
Such an alien, bizarre landscape. I mean, they've shot most of the North of the Wall stuff in Game of Thrones in Iceland. And
well, obviously,
quite easily see
sort
why.
of like the most iconic mountain is Icelandic, isn't he? The mountain that rides the most, like the one that I'd say everyone associates with the actor that everyone associates with that character now. I think he's an Icelandic bodybuilder, and he's fucking. You know, I was shocked to learn he's fucking younger than me and you.
I know, yeah.
I was completely floored by that, but yeah.
And stronger than both of us combined.
Oh, yeah, he'd fucking eat us for breakfast, mate. It's just like...
In most of the Western world, children can't wait for Christmas Day to see if Santa bought them a lovely gift. In Iceland, children get visited by the 13 Yule lads. Icelandic children place their shoe...
Sorry.
Icelandic children place their shoe in their bedroom window each evening for 13 days before Christmas. Every night, one of the Yule lads will visit and leave a small gift for them, depending on how each child has been behaving. From Pottaslicker, Potlicker, who likes to steal leftovers, to Hörskla, who likes to slam doors during the night, each Yule lad has their own personality and idiosyncrasies, which is reflected in their gifts and pranks.
And then the Yule lads, they go down to the kebab shop after 40 pints and they're just like, come on, darling, come on, what you fucking looking at?
Lads.
Lads on tour, Sorry, that is just... Sorry, we are not the only Brits who rip the absolute piss out of that if they've heard of it. No cultural insensitivity or ignorance advocates.
Iceland celebrates Beer Day each year on March the 1st. This is to celebrate the fact that beer is once again legal in Iceland. From January the 1st, 1915 to March the 1st, 1989, that's 74 years, beer was banned in the country. The 1915 ban was much like Prohibition in the United States and banned all alcohol in Iceland. Restrictions were lifted on some alcohol as time passed, with things like wine and liquor legal again by the 1930s, but it took a lot longer for the country to allow beer again. Today there are lots of microbreweries in Iceland, and you can even relax in a beer spa close to Akureyri in northern Iceland.
Sounds charming, to be honest.
Beer was illegal until 1989.
That's fucking crazy. Man.
It's really weird. So you can have the stronger stuff. You can have spirits and you can have wine, but it took them ages to get around to beer.
That is really crazy. Beer spa sounds intriguing, though.
My brother has been to Iceland and he reliably informs me it's about 10 to 15 pounds a pint.
What?
Yeah, apparently it's very, very expensive. He loved Iceland, but the one negative that he had of it is that it's extremely expensive.
So, like, when people go to, I mean, I don't know what the pub culture is like out in Iceland, but I'm imagining that, like, the soaks out there, they actually go out and get shit-faced on spirits then.
I guess.
Habitually.
Yeah, schnapps, I think, is a big deal out there.
10 to 15 pounds a pint.
Yeah, according to him.
Jesus fucking Christ.
That was a few years ago as well. It's probably gone up, I would have thought. Iceland's population is about 360,000, and on such a small island with little immigration, there's a chance that you have distant cousins that you don't even know about. There is also a chance for an Icelander to accidentally date them. It's such a problem that in 2010, the government developed an app which could help them to check if their newly gained acquaintance is related to them or not. The Islendinga app uses information from another database or the Book of Icelanders, a website that lists all Icelanders since the first immigrants in the 11th century and their relations to one another. Android users just have to bump their phones together to know how closely related they are.
Oh, wow.
You think, yeah, it makes a lot of sense, right? 360,000, that's the entire population. So the chance that you're related to somebody is quite high indeed.
360,000?
That's it, yeah.
Holy shit.
Which is amazing when I keep finding with these Icelandic TV programs, these amazing Icelandic actors. You think, how many of them are there with a population of 360,000? Incredible, huh? Iceland has very small trees and almost no forests. It is believed that when Norse settlers arrived in the early 800s, they decimated the relatively small tree population in order to build their first shelters and boats. A joke often told in Iceland is, what do you do if you get lost in an Icelandic forest? Stand up.
Silly, but,
Quite like it, yeah. Iceland, like many other European countries, burned witches at the stake in the 17th century. The witches in Iceland, however, were almost all male.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's really interesting, isn't it? That kind of blew my mind
That's
a little
fucking
bit.
crazy. When it comes to males affiliated with, witch burning, the only person who springs to mind is, John Proctor, who I think was a character in the Crucible. The Crucible by Arthur Miller.
Yeah.
But there was actually widespread burning of male quote-unquote witches.
And presumably widespread male witches. I don't know how prevalent that was across the rest of the world, but to my knowledge, the Salem witch trials and all that were mostly women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, man. Fucking hell.
My last bit of trivia here, and I like to finish off with a silly one.
Oh, yes. Like the news.
This is a good one. Comedian John Nahr was elected the mayor of Reykjavik in 2010 and served for 4 years. One of his campaign promises was not to fulfill any of his campaign promises. Now, that is a good bit of Icelandic humour. I like that a lot. And they voted for him. Yeah, screw it. Can't do any worse, right?
Oh, man, why don't we have anybody like that?
There's a Monster Raving Loony Party, but no one really votes for them, do they?
Yeah, this is the thing.
The thing about, wasn't one of their main campaign promises that you were allowed to drive over roundabouts?
Yeah,
Not just mini roundabouts, any roundabout.
Yeah, I think on their manifesto, the wording was you're allowed to drive over roundabouts specifically to make driving in Milton Keynes more fun.
Yeah. You got to love it, haven't you?
Yeah, we need those guys in, man. Fuck's sake.
Okay, well, that brings us to the end of our free podcast this week. Thank you so much for listening. We're going to go and record the premium podcast this week. We're going to have a continuation of what we started last week. We started out doing underrated movie villains, and we were having so much fun with it, and there are so many of them that we sort of widened it out to just our favorite villains, really.
Yes, I've still got like a slew of like villainous performances that are very, very... they make me very piquant. And from movies that not a lot of people may know about. So
we're going to go into part 2 of that and sort of widen it out, really, and talk about some of our favorite movie villains. If you're interested in any of that, please do check out cinementalist.com for a link to our Patreon page, or just Google Cinementalist. It's one of the first links that comes up. You can follow us on Twitter at Cinementalcast, and you can follow Liam at
the Movies, at Wacko Jacko's Flicks.
Yeah, and other than that, I think that does us for this week. Anything to add, Liam?
Yes, thank you very much for listening. As always, peeps, hope you're staying safe out there, watching some good shit, and if you're watching some bad shit, sorry. But if any of that sounds good, just check it out, and hope to see you again next week.
Yeah, hope to see you on the premium podcast, guys. If not, free one next week. Take it easy.